Hi, my name is Brad Leighninger. I'm from Gettin Basted in Branson, Missouri. I'm the 2020 Kansas City Barbecue Society Team of the Year, the 2020 Rib Team of the Year, the 2017 Pork Team of the Year, 2018 Pork Team of the Year. Basically, I cook a whole heck of a lot of pork. And today, we're gonna talk about quick cutting, flavorful pieces of meat that you can get on the dinner table in a hurry. We've got all of this laid out. We're gonna talk about where each one of these comes from, how to grill it up, and how to present it so you win the backyard contest every night of the week. Let's talk about some of these pork cuts that we've got laid out here. One of the most common ones, and also one of the easiest and most delicious ones that you can find to cook, is the pork tenderloin. This thing, 145 degrees is the temperature you want to take it. You don't want to take it any further than that. You can see it's a small cut of meat. It's a lean cut of meat. So it's really suited to just a blast of high heat, get it to that 145, let it rest, sauce it, serve it. Couldn't be simpler, and it's really a showstopper if you get in there and you find one of those to cook. Then we start getting into the pork chop family, and that can be a little bit confusing because it basically runs the whole length of the animal. You start up here with the country style ribs. You might see some pork steaks. You might see something like that. And that's closer to the shoulder. And if you guys know, the shoulder is a typical barbecue meat. So these things can take a combination method. You can cook them, you can grill them if they're thin cut, or you can get a thicker cut one and you can actually cook it like it's a barbecue meat. Smoke it, braise it, get it nice and tender. They've got a little bit more fat, a little bit more connective tissue. As you go down the animal, you kind of get your rib chops over here. You've got, this is where the ribs are. You can see the bones of ribs in here. You can get these things. You'll get that center cut pork chop that's got the loin in here. I'll kind of cut them. I like them thick. When you're buying these chops, I like a couple inch thick or an inch and a half that you want to get. So I'm actually going to cut a double bone, and you can kind of see what we're talking about here. So you can see that. A lot of marbling. There's a little bit more marbling in this piece of meat. It's just a good piece of meat to reverse sear. You still don't want to cook this thing too high. You're still looking for that 145 degrees, but you can leave this thing as a whole roast. You can do these double cut. You can cook it really slow, bring it up to temperature, maybe bring it up to 115, 120 degrees. Turn your grill up and then zap it and blast it and give it a good crust at that point. So we've got our loin roast or our rib roast that you've got right here. And then as you get further down, you start to get a little bit leaner as it goes down. So now you've got, you've kind of got your, that's your loin meat. You've got a little bit of the tenderloin there, and this is gonna go down in the animal. And this is also a very, very fast cooking piece of meat. It's a lean piece of meat, so you make sure that you don't take it too hot. That's the key thing with all of these. Don't take that temperature over 145 degrees. Let's cook up some of this pork. The cool thing about all of these is you don't really need a recipe. I mean, just a little bit of seasoning and that grill is gonna give you all the flavor you need. Maybe go out and find a sauce or something for some of these, but they're really just the simple techniques, high heat, and just pull it at the right time is the key thing to getting these things done. When you get these pork tenderloins, you've got a little bit of silver skin. I don't get too crazy, but you can just come in here with a good sharp knife and kind of get a little bit of this silver skin off. But again, if you don't get every bit of it, it's not going to hurt anything. You get caught up in that stuff will grill off. One of the things you can do is you can leave it whole if you want, or you can actually slice this into medallions and then it'll actually cook up even quicker. Then you can put them in a pan, sear them off, put them on the grill, give them a flip, however you want to cook them. But all we're going to do with this thing is just season it really simply with a little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. And that's it. We're just gonna take that to the grill, high heat, direct heat. We're gonna cook it up to 145, pull it, slice it, eat it. It's gonna be delicious. These country style ribs are a little bit more of a barbecue meat, so we're gonna almost treat them like we do regular ribs. We're gonna season them up with just a good all-purpose barbecue seasoning. Just whatever you find on the grocery store shelves. You can make your own if you're into that. Salt, paprika, garlic, brown sugar, just basic barbecue seasoning ingredients. We're just going to give them a nice coat. And then we put these on the smoker and just flip them around, get them a good color, and then wrap them up with a little bit of liquid. You can use whatever you want, even water, a little bit of apple juice, whatever you want. And we're gonna braise them down and just cook them until they're tender. That's coming from that shoulder side of the animal. So it's a little bit more like a pork roast that you would do. All right, this is my favorite cut right here. We're talking about the rib chop here. And you can see that thing's just a beautiful color, beautiful cut. So we're gonna do this the same way. We're just gonna season it up. And I like to reverse sear these. I like to cut them thick, and I like to cook them. Whenever I grill, I keep a cold side and a hot side of the grill. I only turn half of it on. And the reason why is I can start it off on that cold side, maybe put a couple chunks of wood in there, smoke it a little bit, get a little bit of flavor, bring it up to temperature slowly, and then I can take it, I can put it directly on that hot side and grill it off. And that just gives it a really good flavor. That's called a reverse sear is the name of that technique. And it's this is a perfect cut of meat to do that with. You need a little bit of thickness to pull it off, but it definitely rewards you if you want to put that extra effort in. You can also just throw it on the grill and just let it eat too. It's not gonna hurt a thing if you just want to grill it off. So we want to make sure we get all sides here. And I leave that fat cap on there. You could trim it off if you want, but if that thing gets nice and rendered out, get a little bit of char, it can add quite a bit of flavor. And you can let your diners kind of cut around that later on if they don't like that part of it. But I like to leave it on there for a little bit of protection. And this is a little bit thinner chop, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna grill this one. It's not thick enough to do the reverse sear, so we're gonna grill it and just season it up with your all-purpose rub. Don't get too much. You gotta be careful because it is a little bit thinner. And again, I like to leave that fat cap on there for some protection. You could take it off there if you want, but I just like that little bit extra flavor that you can get from that. And then you can also go ahead and cook if you want to, and I'm gonna do it I've got a smoker running out there. I'm gonna cook this whole roast, this whole rib roast, and these things are fantastic. We're gonna reverse sear it just like we talked about, season it up all the way around, and then once you bring it up to temperature, then you can cut it down into the steaks, and you can put it on that grill and get those grill marks, get that char, get everything you're looking for. But the slower you bring it up, the more flavor it's gonna have and the more tender it's gonna be. We're just gonna season that thing everywhere. And I always like to season as a general rule. I'm not seasoning the night before. I'm not looking to cure the piece of meat. I like to season about 30 minutes before I go on the grill. It gives it time for that rub to adhere. It starts to liquefy on there a little bit, but it's not gonna cure it. You're actually just gonna get it on there, get a little bit of seasoning, and we'll go on the grill after about 30 minutes. Let's go ahead and take these outside to our grill. All right, we're out here at a grill, and we're gonna cook some of this pork up. One of the key things when you're grilling, and I know my wife will tell you that what I'm telling you I don't do. But what I'm gonna tell you to do is have everything ready to go when you go out to the grill. Have all your stuff in place, that way you're set up for success. We've got an instant read thermometer, got our tongs, we've got our sauce, we got our brushes, because these cuts cook quickly. And once we get on there, the last thing we want to do is run inside the house, grab something, and miss that sweet spot of that perfect pork chop. So we're going to start out with the grilled items. We're going to do the pork loin. We're going to do this thin pork chop, and we're just going to go on there, grill. They're not going to take very long. We're probably looking at about 10 minutes to cook this. The tenderloin might take a little bit longer, but remember we're looking for that 145 is the magic number, and it'll carry over. So we might stop, just a little bit short of that and let it come up and carry over cooking. So we're going to go on there. Again, we've got a hot side and we've got a cool side. If things start moving too fast, we can slide it over. So we're gonna go right on the grate. And then we're gonna take that tenderloin and we're gonna put it on there. Get a little bit of color. We're gonna go about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. We're gonna turn it, try to get our grill marks on this thing, and we're gonna keep going until that thing hits the perfect temperature. Been about 3 minutes or so. We're gonna come in here, whoop. Got a little bit of the grill marks. We're gonna turn that thing, get us our crosshatch. Check out our tenderloin, leave that there. Go for 2 or 3 more minutes and then we'll flip it over. Let's come in here and look and see how we're doing. Got some good marks on there. Give it a little flip. Put that down there so we can get a little bit of action on that fat. Check and see where we're at here. About 110 right now. 97 on that tenderloin. So we've got a few minutes to go, but once it gets up there and once it gets moving, it goes pretty quick. So keep an eye on it. That getting from cold refrigerator temperature, up to that 100 takes a lot longer than it does for the next 45 degrees, so be aware of that. 135. If you're gonna sauce it, we're gonna put it on there about 140, cook it about the last 5 minutes. You don't wanna go on there earlier with sauce. There's a lot of sugar in barbecue sauce and it'll burn if you go too early. So we're there. I'm using a fruit barbecue sauce. It's a raspberry chipotle. We're just gonna put it on there, give it a good little glaze. And then I'm actually gonna move this over to the cooler side of the grill. It's always nice to hit it with another pop of seasoning. Not too much. Check our tenderloin coming along. And we're not looking to do too much. We just want to finish that thing cooking. Again, 145. We want that sauce to tack up. We're not looking to make it really sticky. It's just going to be another minute tops before we pull that thing off there. Let's see where we're at here. Down here by the bone. 149. That's all the further we want to go with that. And you can look at that bone-in raspberry chipotle glazed barbecue sauce. Pork chop thing looks fantastic. Just about there. So we're going to go ahead and hit it with a little bit of our glaze. One more for good measure right there. A little bit of seasoning. Let that go for a couple more minutes, then we're gonna come back, make sure it hit our temperature of 145, pull it off, let it rest. You always wanna let your meat rest, say 10 minutes is enough. Just let those juices redistribute back in, and then we'll slice it up and serve it. We let our glaze sit up there. Let's make sure we're hitting the right temperature. 145. Take that thing off. Looks pretty good. Let it rest. Slice it up and serve it. So now we're going to deal with our slower cooking cuts. We've got half our grill on and half of it off. We're going to start over here on the cold side and kind of simulate a smoker. If you've got a smoker at home, be a perfect time to use it. If you don't, just make sure you got a cold side and a hot side, and then that way you can put this meat on, start it slow over on that cold side. So we're gonna take this whole roast. We're just gonna set it down. And then we've got the double cut chop that we're gonna wanna go, and this is not gonna take as long. You can see what I was talking about, how that liquefies on there. 30 minutes, and then you're sitting there looking at it. That's exactly what you want it to look like before you put it on the grill. So we're gonna set that in there, and we're just looking to get a little bit of flavor. If you've got some wood chunks, wood chips, whatever you wanna throw over the gas, you can do that, and that'd be a great time to do it. But all we're doing is just looking for some color. We're gonna cook this until it gets the color we want. We wanna bring these up to about, these chop cuts up to about 110 to 120 degrees internal before we take them over and we sear them off on the hot side. It's been about an hour. Let's check on those pork chops, if I can get the grill open. About 129 degrees. So we're gonna go ahead and move it over to the hot side, put a sear on it, bring it up to that 145, and then we're gonna pull it off and we're gonna eat it. So you can see that, get right there on the hot side. These other ones are looking good. Just roll them over. Our whole rack is looking great. Keep that thing going for a minute. Now we're just looking to grill. Let that flare up. Again, that's why we've got the hot side, cold side. This fat's gonna start rendering off here. If we end up losing control, getting a flare up, whatever, no problem, move it over. That's why I like to keep it that way. Roll it over. Look at that thing hopping. That's why I like to keep that fat cap on there. And it's up to you how you wanna finish this. I'm a barbecue guy, so I'm gonna put a little bit of that raspberry chipotle barbecue sauce on there. But you can just eat it just like this. Go ahead and start brushing it with the sauce. shot of flavor. We don't want to go too long once we put that sauce on there. It'll definitely burn. So we're sitting there right now, right at 145. Pull that thing right over there to platter, and there we have our double cut pork chop. Looking pretty good. Might eat that, just pick it up off the bone and just chew right in on that one. All right, so these country style ribs, we're just looking to get a good color. They're starting to color up. These are gonna go more like, these are from the butt end, so they're gonna cook more like a barbecue butt. So the finishing temperature of these things is gonna be a lot higher, gonna be closer to 200 than it is. And we're gonna we're gonna reverse sear the whole rack. And so we're coming up there, and we still got a little ways to go before that thing's ready to move over to the sear side. Go ahead and roll around. Starting to look good though. All right, close the lid. We'll come back and check on those here in a few minutes. We're gonna come out here and check our country style and our rib roast here. They're starting to look good. Let's see if we're ready to reverse sear this. And we are. We're sitting there at about 120, 125 degrees. So we're gonna move everything over to direct heat just to get a good color. Finish up cooking. Watch out, that thing's gonna go. That's that fat cap side. So once it starts dripping, it's gonna start flaming up. Don't worry about it. You can just move it over, move it off. You can see already how that thing got popping. So we don't need to give it too much. All right, starting to look good. Let's go ahead and give it a little glaze. Starting to look good. All right. Glaze it up. See how our country styles are doing. Looking good. Give them the glaze treatment too. Let that set up for another minute or two. Come back, we'll pull them off, take them inside and eat. Let's pull these off. That's about right to me. Country style ribs. All right, right at 145. All right, there we go. We've got our rib roast, bone-in rib roast, and our country style ribs. Take them inside and serve them up. Thank you for joining me today as we cook this versatile cut of pork. Hopefully this gives you the ammunition to go out there and try this in your own backyard. The key thing to remember, 145 degrees, and that's gonna have your pork turn out perfect every single time.